Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from FFScout.co.uk. My name is David and today we're going to have a look at how my team is shaping up for Gameweek 13. Now I actually did one of these a week ago, but as we know, in football, politics and life in general, a week is a very long time, especially when it's an international break. And things have changed drastically in the past couple of days. We've seen players get injured. We've seen players who we thought were injured appear in training. And it's just complete and utter chaos. So I thought going through the changes from my team from last week to this week might be useful for people and might help you guys work out what to do going into Game Week 13. Now, I am recording this on Thursday, so it will not be able to factor in the Friday press conferences, but obviously I will talk a couple of things in terms of what I would do if this or that happens in those Friday press conferences. So hopefully it's still useful for you if you're checking this out on a Friday or a Saturday. And of course, I would be remiss in my duty if I didn't tell you guys to also check out the team news video on Friday as well, which will have all the latest updates from those FPL press conferences. There's no Neil this week. It'll be me filling in for him to make sure that the ginger to non-ginger ratio is maintained on that particular video. But wow, I can't think I can remember a game week in FPL where the press conferences were as important as this one for probably about 3 weeks, because it seems to be the injury flag season of all things. We have returned to some normality. You know, there's no COVID things getting involved or World Cups to get in the way. But injuries very much are becoming the recurring theme of the season. And that, of course, is just impacting absolutely everything we're going to be doing with our teams. So let's have a look at how mine is getting on at the moment. But before we get on to that, a few pieces of housekeeping as ever to take you guys through. It is, of course, never too late to sign up to Fantasy Football Scout membership before the Game Week 13 deadline. You can save up to 20% on those prices. All sorts of different packages available. Go to the website and pick out the one that works best for you. You guys know the benefits by now. So I'm going to save my breath that I would usually spend on that to talk about something very exciting, very new. We have officially launched our brand new site of Fantasy Football Scout called Fantasy Football Merch. So if you are having a look around at the moment, it's of course a very spending heavy time of year with lots of Black Friday deals out there. Perhaps maybe getting an early head start on your Christmas shopping and you're looking for some great fantasy football clothes and mugs. We've got hats, beanies, t-shirts, jumpers, the lot with some really cool designs, which I've had nothing to do with, so I can talk them up as much as possible without it being vain in any way. If you're looking for stuff like that, head to fantasyfootballmerch.co.uk and use the discount code BlackFriday25 when you're checking out, and that will help you get 25% off in the shop. And before we go any further, of course, this video is sponsored by Betway, the principal betting partners of West Ham and the betting partner of Brighton as well. On Friday, they announced the heroes of the weekend, bet £10 on player markets, top scorer of the heroes, and they will credit a £1 free bet for every point up to £20. Betway are also running giveaways, including shirts and tickets for West Ham and Brighton. We know that not everyone gambles. It's something we take very seriously, which is why on our website we have a filter you can turn on, which allows you to opt out of gambling ads. For those who do enjoy it, do so responsibly and safely. There's more info about Betway in the description, and of course you have to be over 18 to play. And we encourage everybody to gamble responsibly and to be gambleaware.org. When the fun stops, stop. Well, as I always say, the fun never stops in FPL, especially when things have been as chaotic as they have been. Now, what I've got on the screen right now is the shape of my team last week, as I showed it to you a couple of days ago, and more flags have surfaced since then. But just to help you guys understand what I was thinking of doing, as you can see here, Mitoma and Bowen completely flag free at this particular point in time, so I was going to captain Bowen. I was able to probably bench one of Cash or Shimmercast, knowing that I would be able to use one of my transfers to replace Van der Ven with, I had been thinking, a Newcastle defender. Wasn't too excited about it, but it would probably help me later on down the line. So that was the view there, with a hope that maybe a Stupinian would be fit. Now, what my team looks like now is even messier. So, we now have a flag on Mitoma, we have a flag on Bowen, we have a flag on Haaland, a Stupinian and Van der Ven, no change there at the time of recording. There has also been, from what we understand, some kind of injury or flag-related situation with Cash, although he remains unflagged at the moment and is probably going to be able to play at the weekend, and our understanding is that he's trained. And we don't have to be too worried. It was seemingly like one of those ones where this game was just becoming just an absolute parody of itself with yet another flag. So I'm mildly nervous there. But generally speaking, my plan to hold off on the wild card, I think, is still viable at the moment. So if you've not already heard, I'm sure you all have at this point, my plan is to try and hold that wild card until game week 19 after the blank game week in 18 so that I can dead end into it, save myself having to use a free hit, load up on Brentford and Man City players in the build up to 18 because the fixtures of both of those teams are really good, then sell them for 18, and then it means that I can then go into game week 19 and wildcard them all back in again because Brentford and Manchester City have great fixtures after the blank game week as well. And of course, wildcarding later on allows me to really maximise that period of the season between January and March, where a lot of people don't like to use their second wildcard in that slot because they want to save it for chip season. So I can maximise my team for that run and save my wildcard for chip season. That's the general idea. There's obviously another window of opportunity in game week 16 as well. The fixtures turn quite nicely then. So my plan for several weeks has been, can I use my free transfers to build what would look like a good game week 16 wildcard by the time I get there so that I can still dead end into 18. So that has been my plan. That plan has been tested more than ever this week with the number of flags that we've had. Come close to playing the wildcard, pressing that button. I haven't actually built a single wildcard squad though, because I know that if I do, it'll probably look good and I'll probably be tempted to go with it. So I've deliberately not done that and tried to find solutions just to keep on getting through game week after game week. I've done it before this season, and it's worked both times I've had injury crises before. Just carrying injured people on the bench, and obviously the fact that I've got a Stupinan and Van de Ven is testament to the fact that that's still viable to do. Because not doing too badly so far this season. Quite happy with where I'm up to 38k. So I'm not gonna change my plans because of all these flags. Hopefully, we'll see what happens in the Friday press conferences. That's the intention anyway. And I just want to stay the course. I think sometimes when you've got a plan, you're better off sticking to that plan, even if you're a bit worried about it, rather than necessarily wavering halfway through and becoming indecisive. That can sometimes do more damage, and that's not just for FPL. That's just for anything in life. Bit of life advice for you there. So that's kind of what I want to achieve. But how am I going to be able to do it this game week? Well, let's find out. So I'll read out my current team as things stand for the benefit of the podcast listeners. I've got Johnston in goal still. I'm now theoretically starting Cash, Anderson and Shimikas. Then in midfield, Saka, Diaby, Matoma and Salah. And then up front, Haaland, Alvarez. The captaincy's on Haaland now. And Cameron Archer coming off the bench to start, which would mean a bench of Turner, Bowen, Estupinan and Van de Ven. Now, of course, this is pre-transfers, so it might look a little bit different to what I end up having come the Saturday deadline. Check out the deadline stream on Saturday if you want to find out what my final decisions were, or if you maybe want to have a hand in it, because I sometimes need your help, and it's useful to put a few pre-deadline polls up. So if you want to help me with that, then do join me there. So let's start with the goalkeepers first, because that's a nice, easy situation to talk through. I mean, Turner has lost his place. Johnston is away at Luton, and Crystal Palace have been really good for clean sheets so far this season. Him especially, he's been really, really useful. He is already up to 50 points for the campaign, and that has come, of course, from 5 clean sheets, 3 of those in the last 6. It's a really favourable fixture, so he's an easy start, as is Anderson. So that's nice and easy. So moving, obviously, into defence now. So I had been thinking about making a defender change, but I think the number of flags that have kind of popped up in midfield is starting to cause me some issues. I may well still have to change one of my defenders. I'm really kind of waiting to see what happens with Estupinan, if I'm honest. If he can be fit, then I can start him ahead of Shimikas, and that makes life a little bit easier. But yeah, I think Cash away at Spurs, I think that's actually a great time to play Cash if you've got him. I wouldn't be too worried about selling him now. A couple of reasons. Number one, you need your Aston Villa players probably in place to help you in Game Week 18 because they've got a really nice fixture then. But also, Spurs are missing 3 of their first choice back 4. They haven't got Maddison. They haven't got Basuma as well. So, I mean, if Aston Villa were going to break their away day hoodoo, this seems the time to do it. So they're coming against a Spurs team, coming up against a Spurs team that are, vulnerable compared to usual. So I think there's a result in this for them, and Cash can get attacking returns. I don't think he keeps a clean sheet, but I reckon he might get an assist or a goal. So I've just got to try and hope and rely on that. So that's what I would probably do if I don't think about having to make some swaps. As I said, Estupinan may come in off the bench. Now, midfield, this is where it gets really tricky. I wanted to captain Bowen. He's currently yellow flagged. We haven't heard from David Moyes yet, but we've heard a few things from some fairly reliable sources that he's got some fluid on the knee. The only thing is, we don't really know what the longevity of that is. I really like Bowen. I think he's doing really well this season. He has got some positive fixtures on the horizon. There's reasons to hold on to him for a few more weeks yet. I mean, they've got Fulham and Wolves in 16 and 17, for example. Some good fixtures there. So at the moment, he's on my bench because I'm not feeling the need to sell him. Now, if you are checking this out on Friday after a press conference where David Moyes has ruled him out for several weeks, then I may well have sold him by that point. Because all the talk this week has been about, doing Mitoma to Mbeumo. There's also Eze in the conversation as well for that away game against Luton as well. There's definitely some really good midfielders I could get to. If Bowen is going to be out for some time, he is the closest thing I have to a cash cow because he would officially be my most expensive unavailable player. That one's quite a simple swap, and then I would probably bench Archer. But it also depends on what we find out about Mitoma. Now, I was going to record this video on Thursday morning, and I had this sixth sense, almost like a Peter Parker tingle, that we were going to have some more injury drama on Thursday. And lo and behold, that's exactly what we had. It didn't come in the form of a press conference. It came in the form of Brighton and Hove Albion's Twitter account, where they posted a video of the players all jogging out, getting ready to train, and who was the first man trotting out in his boots, looking like he's never ever had an injury in his life. It was, of course, the Japanese international Mitoma. And so he looks fine. I mean, I'm no expert, but I mean, he wasn't exactly hobbling. Now, whether or not that means he's going to start against Forest, I don't know. What on earth that means in the context of hearing from a quite reliable Brighton and Hove Albion source that he was likely to miss this one. What that means for that, we have no idea. It's entirely possible that maybe less of an injury and more of a sort of, kind of like a load management with the player. He has started a lot of games. He's been one of the most reliable starters for Brighton in a world where everybody seems to rotate around him. So it could be possible that that's the reason for that information we heard earlier in the week. And the fact that he's training is immaterial to whether or not he starts. Really, we need to hear from De Zerbi. Again, if you're checking this out on Friday or Saturday and you've already heard from De Zerbi and he's given some view here, then you'll have more information than I have right now in terms of the flow chart of what I would do in various scenarios. If it sounds like he's probably going to be okay, I think I just start him. I think it's a good fixture. If he does rule him out for several weeks, then I may then have to sell him, as I've already mentioned. And Mbeumo looks really, really good this week. I think Eze is a good option too. If you are a bit nervous about going a week early on Mbeumo, you could go for Eze this week and find some way to get to Mbeumo next week. I mean, what I could do here is I could do Mitoma to Eze, and then I could do Bowen to Mbeumo next week, for example. So there's options I can do. I'm weighing up those different options, and it really is just going to rely on that injury news. Now, outside of those midfielders, Salah, Diaby, and Saka are all easy inclusions. I've already talked about, I think, this week Villa have got a good fixture. Whilst it's not a nice one for Arsenal with Saka, they also have some nice fixtures coming up. They've got Wolves at home next week, and then Luton away after that. So possible captaincy candidate for Saka in game week 15. So he's going nowhere. And then Salah is in the form of his life at the moment. 16 points in the most recent game week. It is Man City away, yes, but they've got Fulham and Sheffield United coming up, so of course he stays in the team as well. So let's move on finally to the forwards then. Haaland and Alvarez, again, not really going to be going anywhere. I'm fairly confident that of all the injuries I've got, the one on Haaland is the one I need to be least worried about. I think the fact that he's obviously had this injury in the international break and it stopped him being involved for Norway is not really all that disconcerting, because he would not be the first player to not take risks for his international team and then come back like the robot that he is in a really, really big game against Liverpool and just bag a hat-trick. I'm a bit disappointed that I look at who I've got available now, and whatever update we get on Bowen, it's not going to be captainable levels of update. So I need Moyes to basically come into that press conference and say everything you've heard about Bowen is a complete lie. He didn't leave the England squad for an injury. He left for some personal reason. He's absolutely fine. I'm going to start him up front against Burnley and he's going to bag a hat-trick. If I get that, maybe I'll go back to captain Bowen, but we aren't going to get that because it does seem that there is at least something wrong with him. So it just kind of defaults me back to Haaland, which I do think is kind of boring. I'm a bit annoyed with the FPL gods here. I was really excited, as you will have seen from last week, especially with that thumbnail designed for you guys, of captaining Bowen. It would have been so exciting to do something so different in a world where, Haaland kind of ruined the captaincy for a long time, and we'd finally got captaincy debates back. But he really is the best candidate for this week outside of Bowen in my team. I think Eze's got a good shout against Luton, but do I trust him enough to do that? Well, I mean, I might not even sign him, so that says all I need to know. So yeah, Haaland captaincy I think is going to be what's going to happen, and then Alvarez stays in the team. The fixtures for City aren't amazing in the next few game weeks. Spurs at home after this one, Villa away after that, but then you've got Luton in 16 and Palace in 17. They obviously have the blank, but then it's Everton away, Sheffield United at home in 19 and 20, Burnley at home in game week 22. So 3 fantastic fixtures for City after the blank as well. Another reason why I want to hold off on that wild card so I can do the old Man City ability hokey-cokey without having to use a free hit, basically. So let's finally move on to Cameron Archer then. He currently is in the team. If I end up having to make transfers, then I would probably bench him, because if I have to make transfers, it will probably be for a midfielder. And Eze or Mbeumo, I think both have a better chance this week than Archer, which says more about his form than it necessarily does about his fixture, because his fixture is really nice. Bournemouth have been one of the most obliging defences so far this season. All of Archer's returns this season have all come at home. There's only been 3 of them, but he got 12 points at home to Everton. He got 9 points at home to Wolves. So against the very worst defences in the league. Now, Everton were among those in Game Week 4. They aren't anymore. But Wolves have been shipping a lot of chances as well. Against those teams, Archer has a real decent chance. So, kind of hoping. I mean, the weirdest thing is, looking at the way this team is now, if Bowen's update is that he's not going to be out for very long, if the update on Matoma is that he's probably fine, and then Haaland also is cleared, which we expect, then I might be able to roll my transfer. With this many flags, it would be incredible, because I still would hold him to a stupid. Now, my understanding is he's not that far away, so he could even be back next week, and I think he's a bit of a seasoned keeper when he is fit. I would love to be able to roll my transfer, because we've got so many things to deal with coming up. We've got the Christmas period where we're going to have fixtures coming in left, right and centre. We're going to have the first midweek deadline in the first week of December. We're going to have loads and loads of deadlines across the festive period, as we always do. So being able to bank a transfer and then use that to sort of shimmy about to finally get rid of some of these flags whilst holding on to the wildcard could be the way to go. So lots up in the air. There's a possibility I roll my transfer, even with this absolute chaos squad. In all likelihood, kind of expecting Bowen to get rolled up for a long time. And then it'll be a case of, do I get Eze to get this week's really nice fixture and then get Mbeumo next week? Or do I simply just get Mbeumo now and get kind of settled in, ready for him to have Luton next week? So yeah, that's kind of my thinking there. Now, hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, please don't forget to hit that like button. We welcome any support you guys can bring to the channel. And of course, it's absolutely free as well. Now, if you subscribe as well to the channel and hit that bell notification, then it means you're never going to miss a thing. Another good way to support the channel as well, because it means that we know the people who like this content are getting regular access to it when they need it. And of course, as I said, coming out of an international break, oh boy, do you need those bell notifications on, because there's so many things coming out. Well, with that, I will leave you fine, folks, to the rest of your preparation for Game Week 13, and I shall see you next time. Goodbye.